What's up, everybody? I'm just going to take a couple minutes to go over one of my favorite gaming series of all time, and that is Silent Hill. It's got a special place in my heart because, I don't know, it came out in 1999, the original, and it was one of those games that really changed the way that I thought about games, kind of what I expected from a horror game and what I thought horror games could be. It was actually so scary that my friend who purchased the title could not finish it. He was just like, I'm not going to do it. I cannot play this game any longer. And that's when he kind of just threw it at my brother for him to play instead. But yeah, he never could finish the first game, and to this day has never completed a Silent Hill game. It's pretty remarkable when you think about it, because like I played this game probably 3 or 4 times, and I remember jumping at the exact same spot every single time that I played this game. Like every single time, I was like, I knew it was coming, but it still scared me. Like I can't not jump at certain spots. It was too much. But I loved it. I love good horror games, and they're so hard to find. And especially with younger gamers that come in and they're like teenagers, like they weren't around to experience Silent Hill when it was fresh, but I'm sure they hear about it. Especially if they're into horror games, they always hear about this Silent Hill. Like, what is this game? And I've seen movies about it, but the movies don't do it justice. Part 2, Silent Hill 2, in my opinion, was the best one. It was the one to basically set the bar for all the rest. And it was good because it was a standalone story. It wasn't one of those games where you had to really get involved with the first game and learn the story, learn the characters and everything before jumping into Part 2. Part 2 was its own story that also centered into the Silent Hill universe. This game, it's easily one of my favorite games of all time. Easily. Like, there's no contest. Silent Hill 2 was also one of those games that really showcased what the PS2 was capable of, because at the time there wasn't really many games that looked as good or sounded as good, I'll definitely have some fond memories of that game, because E3 2001 was the one and only E3 that I ever attended, and aside from being able to play GameCube for the first time, being one of the first people in the public to be able to play that was one of the benefits of going to that E3. But the second half of going to that E3 for me was being able to play Silent Hill 2, and it was amazing. It was definitely an experience I won't forget, considering how much I loved the first one. I was definitely looking forward to Part 2, and I subsequently purchased the Xbox version and played through that, and it was also very good. It was a very good port. And then while we're on the subject of talking about ports, the PC version, at the time it came out, it was also a very good port. It was lacking some of the things that was present in the PS2 version, it was definitely good. It was certainly better than the HD collection that they released, for the PS3 and the Xbox 360. That's a whole other topic for a whole other day, but basically Konami lost the source code for Silent Hill 2 and 3, so they had to basically refinish the game from beta code and then fix a lot of the same bugs they fixed the first time around. And so they had to refinish the game and then, bump it up to HD, and it's a big mess. If you've never played Silent Hill 2 before, or 3, or any of them, just pretend the HD collection doesn't exist. And in my opinion, the best way to experience the original games, at least, 2 through, well, pretty much all of them, honestly, is the PC version. And for the sole reason being because you can play Silent Hill 2 with, community mods like widescreen, 1080p, you have the PS2 style fog effects. You really can't go wrong. It's amazing. Plus you can adjust the way the movies play and what format they're in. So there's really no reason to not do it that way, in my opinion. Silent Hill 2 was one of those games that it affected me so much. It kind of permeated into my other gaming habits. A lot of people who know me personally know that I spent a ton of time creating tracks for Trials Evolution on Xbox 360 and Trials Fusion on Xbox One. These were kind of my games. Like, I love creating custom tracks for these games, and the very first track I made for Trials Evolution on Xbox 360 was a Silent Hill themed track. It was awful. It was a terrible track. There was no flow at all. The obstacles were awful. I had no idea what I was doing. I was kind of learning as I did it. So after I got a lot of experience, I knew what made a good track, like what makes tracks fun. I went and revisited, the Silent Hill theme again, and I came out with a track called Silent Hill Torment, and here it is. There's an excellent guide online that I highly recommend everybody follow. This is the Silent Hill widescreen fix. Silent Hill 2 widescreen fix, I should say. This is the guide that I use to kind of perfect the PC version of Silent Hill 2 to make it the quintessential Silent Hill 2 experience. You can play on a big widescreen TV, play it in HD. If you've got it, if you got a controller hooked up, that's even better. Xbox One controller, Xbox 360 controller, that's definitely the way to go. And that's the way that I have played through this game recently, and I had to make this video because it was amazing, because it was kind of like reliving the same experiences that I had so many years ago, but it was fresh, it was new, and it was so enjoyable. Highly recommended. Now, Silent Hill uses the classic survival horror tank control styles where you press up to go forward no matter which direction you're facing, and that's the way we liked it, and that's the way it was. Silent Hill, Resident Evil, there was a couple of other, survival horror games with the tank controls, and it does take some getting used to if you're not used to it, but once you are, then it just totally feels natural, and it's definitely the way to go. And of course there was Silent Hill 3, which came out a couple of years after Part 2, and it's also a great game, and it's heavily tied into the first game, so if you've never played the first game, I would highly recommend doing so before playing Part 3. Although it's not required, it definitely helps enhance the experience, just because the main character of Part 3 is a direct product of the first game, and you'll know what I mean if you actually play it. Or, you can watch somebody play it, that's fine too, but I highly recommend playing it, just because, there's no... watching other people play games is no fun, nobody does that. But yeah, and then of course there was Silent Hill 4, The Room, which this is kind of one of those games that a lot of people are divided on, because it wasn't really a Silent Hill title to start with. Konami was developing it, and it wasn't one of the games that was going to be a Silent Hill game. And at some point during development, they're like, you know what, let's just make it a Silent Hill game. I guess they were concerned that it may not sell as well if it was a brand new IP, or just, a universe that no one was familiar with. So I personally didn't think that it needed to be a Silent Hill game, but at the same time, I'm not disappointed that it is. I actually think it's really good. Personally, I like that one better than Part 3, which a lot of people might, hate me for, but whatever. That's just my opinion. I thought it was awesome, because you're basically in your apartment, and then you can kind of crawl through a hole in the wall and end up in Silent Hill, and then every time you return to your apartment, it's more messed up. Like, you see like hallucinations, and the walls are like decaying, and all kinds of crazy shit goes down. It's really cool, and it's one of those games that the more you play it, the more you can really appreciate it. In my opinion, was actually the classic Silent Hill game that's most like what Silent Hills could have been, because of the first-person view and just kind of the general feel. And Silent Hills is still a fresh wound for a lot of Silent Hill fanatics like myself, so I'm gonna save that for another day. Maybe for the death anniversary of Silent Hills, the day it was canceled officially. Still hurts, man. Still hurts. So after discussing the 4 original Silent Hill titles, 1, 2, 3, 4, The Room, in my opinion, those are the essential Silent Hill titles. That is the series. That's Silent Hill. There's a bunch of other spin-off games and things like that, but I don't really consider them as canon or really a part of the main story. Just because when Konami stopped, caring about the Silent Hill IP, that's kind of when it fell off the map for a lot of people, including myself. There was Silent Hill Downpour, Silent Hill Homecoming. There was a novel for the Game Boy Advance that released only in Japan, I think, or maybe Europe. I don't know. I never played it. And then there was the arcade game, which came out in Japan and I think Australia, maybe Europe too. And again, America just doesn't get it. That would have been pretty cool because I like House of the Dead and I like Silent Hill, and this game was kind of like both in one. And yeah, funny story. I actually planned on actually opening up my own arcade business at some point in my life. It was several years ago, maybe a decade ago. And one of the games that I wanted, I was looking to import a Silent Hill arcade light gun game back to the States so we could actually play it in my arcade, which sounded really cool in my head just because I wanted to play it, but it never happened and I never got to play it. So maybe it's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list. But yeah, there's a bunch of titles that are, they got the Silent Hill title, but they just don't get the feel. It's like having a robot, that looks good and, it looks human, but you can tell it has no soul. That's kind of what these games are to me. So, and of course, I was super thrilled whenever Konami came out with Silent Hills, whenever they released the PT demo, which blew the whole gaming world away. And it completely took over any other news that came out that year, in my opinion. I don't even remember what else was announced that year. Like I don't even remember. That's how big it was. Like it was too much. But again, that's a topic for a whole other video because I could go on for hours about that, and I don't want to kill you guys. But yeah, I guess to sum it all up, if you haven't played a Silent Hill title, I would recommend playing part 2 or 3. There's some debate about which one of those two is the best. I personally think it's part 2, just because it's a standalone story. It's a closed story, and it's definitely the full Silent Hill experience. Silent Hill 3 is a great game, in my opinion. It's definitely one of the better horror games ever made. However, I don't think it's quite as good as part 2. I did find it a little bit more challenging, which I guess is cool if you're into that kind of thing. But the enemies are definitely a little bit tougher, at least from my memory. I played it a couple of times. But so anyways, play one of those two games if you haven't already. Please, for the love of God, play Silent Hill 2 or 3, get acquainted with it, and understand why the fans of this series are so rabid and so just still angry about Silent Hills. Just know where we're coming from. In any case, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Please subscribe. I got more to come.